Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Quick Hits with BDSA. Actually, we have today Kelly Nielsen. She is the Vice President of Insights and Analytics for BDSA, joined the team in October. Kelly, you worked at Nielsen Media prior to this. Any relationship to the family name?
Unfortunately not. I think I wouldn't need a job anymore if I did.
This is probably true. And so today, Kelly, we really want to kind of hone in on what's happening in Arizona. Very exciting that they moved to adult use legalization and voted on that in the fall and moved very quickly to opening up an adult use market. Arizona was a huge medical market. So can you kind of quantify how big of a market it was prior to adult use?
Yeah, absolutely. So super exciting for Arizona to make this transition to adult use, because prior to this shift in legislation, it was already one of the biggest markets in the United States with over $1 billion in medical sales last year. So super exciting to see this transition.
That's awesome. And so in addition to that, they moved so quickly to actually open up the adult use sales from moving from medical, and, every state's kind of gone on their own path, and we've seen some states move very quickly, some states move really slow. Some states that have legalized recently that seem to be moving slow, i.e. New York. I'd love to see you guys have sales as early as next year. But anyways, how quick did they move, and how did they do it down in Arizona?
Yeah, so I mean, quite frankly, the speed at which Arizona came to market surprised even us, but we were obviously very excited to see those adult use sales starting so quickly. So if we think about the timeline, Arizona passed adult use sales legislation in the last election, last November, and they started selling product as early as the last week in January. Wow. And so just to put that in perspective, that's about 60 days, right? I mean, yeah, November, December, January, about 60 days, which prior to that, the fastest that we had really seen was Illinois, which was, about 6 months or so. So that 60
prior to that was almost like 10 or 12 months usually, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So I think Arizona has really set a completely new precedent for how to move to market quickly. And to your question, like how they did that, the way that they gave licenses first to those dispensaries that already have the medical licenses. And the implication there is because they already have a big medical market, they gave the licenses to those dispensaries. They already had both the infrastructure to supply demand, and those stores were able to make that shift pretty quickly.
And they did all this amongst multiple ballot recounts from the last election. So we'll keep off the political hot buttons for a moment, but how big do we expect Arizona to be now that they've legalized adult use? We've obviously expanded the number of people that have access to cannabis. You just got to be 21. You don't have to have a medical condition. So what are you seeing from the early sets of data you're collecting?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple things to call out. So I would say first, from a forecast perspective and where we expect volume to be for total 2021, we project the overall size of the market to be pushing $1.5 billion, $1.5 billion. So that's, a 40-50% increase with this expanded population. But, in this early indication that we're seeing of where volume is coming from, dispensaries have been able to turn on this adult use sales pretty quickly, start tracking it pretty quickly. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't still a little messy. Everyone's still trying to figure it out, but we're seeing more and more of this volume. And so when we're taking a look specifically at April, let's talk about April for a second. We project that overall size of the Arizona market to be $125 million in sales. And so that's up from prior months, obviously, because we're layering in this additional channel. And we're seeing that about 40% of that volume right now is being considered adult use. So that translates to about $53 million in sales.
Yeah, and I know you're collecting April data, out of the gate, and we just had a call with our board of advisors, and many of them who are retailers and brands, and talked a little bit about the kind of effects of 420. And while everybody sees this huge sales spike around the 420 holiday, if you kind of look at this over an aggregate of like a 6-week period, it's really kind of slightly up, not that much of an increase, because you're just really kind of compressing those sales into that 1 week holiday. People want to kind of stock up and beef up a little bit, but then they have this extra supply, and then sales fall off a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see as more of the data comes through from BDSA. BDSA obviously does a tremendous amount of work on the consumer insight side of the business as well. when you're starting to look at what kind of products people were purchasing, well, it was a medical market versus what you're seeing and changes in that landscape now that we have an adult use market in Arizona.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, the couple big hitters from a category perspective continue to be the big hitters, your flower, your concentrates. But where we do tend to see some differentiation, which I think is interesting, is particularly in the area of pre-rolls and edibles. So folks are about 20% more likely to be consuming edibles in the adult use versus medical channels, and about 80% more likely to be picking up pre-rolls. And I think that's really interesting because if you think about those product forms, they tend to be more accessible product forms to
Sure.
new cannabis consumers, or those entering the market for the first time. So,
Yeah.
pretty exciting to see those categories starting to spike just for the ease and accessibility.
Yeah, somebody was telling me they were watching a video of somebody that was, or maybe it was a TV show where this person was trying to be cool and fit in and smoke out of an apple for the first time, and went in and actually took a bite of the apple. So I can
Oh,
certainly
geez.
see where like some of these new consumers wouldn't fully understand like, hey, I got this flower, what do I do with it? Have the accoutrements, so to speak, to
Mhm.
consume it. I'm a big fan of pre-rolls. I love the dog walkers personally. The
Yeah,
little
yeah.
shorties, that way you don't waste so much flour. Arizona is going to be continue to be a big market. And now are they issuing more licenses now that they've kind of converted all of the medical license holders obviously into being able to sell adult use cannabis? Obviously they're going to have some new players coming in the market.
Yeah, I mean, I think as time goes on, there's going to be more and more players. I think the thing to keep in mind is right now, not all license holders have opened their doors yet. So we see that continuing to trickle in. As of right now, of our view of the landscape, definitely a strong majority have started, but there's still a couple that haven't. And I think, kind of going back to that overall size of industry, and as we see the split between adult use and medical, usually when a dispensary opens their doors, we're seeing roughly about 30% of volume in that first month transfer to adult use. But then in months 2 and 3, that's starting to push 40%, 50%. So, I
Sure.
called out that April was, roughly 40% of volume from adult use dollars, but we expect that to continue to grow as more stores come online and get established and that consumer population grows.
Is there a significant tax differentiation for medical cannabis to the consumer?
There's definitely a difference. I'm blanking on the number off the top of my head, but I know there is definitely a
Yeah.
difference. And when we see, when we take a look at other markets, typically what we tend to see is in the early months, we still see a lot of that medical sales because of the tax breaks. Sometimes over time, you see that maybe the folks, as it comes up for renewal of those medical licenses, might be less inclined if there's also adult use available.
Sure. Yeah, it's like your driver's license expiring, or your license plates. Yeah, I'll get to it.
Yeah,
Now,
exactly.
obviously, to kind of one other question, obviously Harvest Health is kind of had a big footprint in the Arizona market as kind of a publicly traded MSO. We all saw the news, mega merger with TrueLeaf. Are any of the other MSOs operating in the state or moving into the state that you know of?
Not off the top of my head on that one, unfortunately. But I will say that TrueLeaf and Harvest acquisition is definitely obviously big news for the Arizona market, and it definitely expands that footprint for TrueLeaf, expanding in that huge market that we
Sure.
talked about, going to be one of the biggest markets, and obviously TrueLeaf having the opportunity to play there now. And Harvest just continues to be such a massive player in the Arizona market.
Yeah, they are. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, I almost wonder if the fact that they moved to adult use so quickly is kind of left some of the MSOs, which take a little bit of time to build their strategy, start having conversations, acquiring licenses. Might have helped support some of the smaller independent businesses in the market. But every state's like a box of chocolates. You don't know what you're going to get until you open it up. But Kelly, thank you so much. Really enjoyed having you on for Quick Hits with BDSA today. And we look forward to more of your insights.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.